You ever just scroll and think to yourself, wow, the internet just feels broken? Well, today we're going to dive into a theory that might just explain that exact feeling of overwhelm you get every time you open your feed.
Yeah, it's that feeling, right? You're just scrolling and it's this constant flood of outrage and just the most extreme opinions. It really makes you stop and wonder, is this really what the world is like? Does everyone actually think this way?
And it turns out it's a super shared experience. It's this feeling of digital exhaustion, a sense that everything you see online is just a little bit broken, or as a lot of people are saying now, cooked. That's why doom scrolling is a thing, right? It feels both completely irresistible and totally awful. But what if I told you there's a really simple explanation for all of this?
Okay, so let's get into it. The whole concept is called the Unemployed Internet Theory. And really, it's a mental model that gives us a surprisingly simple answer for why our online world feels so, well, so skewed.
So, what does that actually mean? Well, the theory is pretty simple. It's the idea that the people with the most time to be online, posting, commenting, arguing all day, they're the ones who end up dominating the entire conversation. And then you throw in modern algorithms, which are basically designed to amplify the loudest voices, and you get this crazy feedback loop. A small, super active minority starts to look like the majority, and that completely warps how we all see the world.
Now, this is a really crucial point. This is not about judging anyone. It's not a critique of people who are unemployed or students or retirees. It's just an observation about one thing: time. It's a fundamental resource, right? It doesn't matter if you're a student, a retiree, or even a journalist whose literal job it is to be online. The principle is exactly the same. It all comes down to who has the hours in the day to shape what everyone else sees.
So let's break this down a little further. Who is actually online? The theory basically splits everyone into two distinct groups that are shaping the whole conversation.
Okay, so on one side, you've got what we can call the vocal minority. These are the folks with the time and, let's be honest, the energy to be hyperactive online. They're posting, debating, commenting constantly. And then you've got the silent majority. These are people who are busy with their jobs, their families, their actual offline life. Sure, they're online too, but they're mostly just observing. They're lurking, not really driving the conversation.
And this chart, even though it's just an illustration, it really captures the idea perfectly. You have this tiny fraction of users who are generating a huge majority of the content. So just by sheer volume, their perspective becomes the loudest one in the room, even if it doesn't reflect how most people out there actually feel. Okay, but this is where it starts to get a little more serious. This isn't just about who's tweeting what. It's about the very real bias this creates in your feed and how that ends up shaping your personal reality every single day.
So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Your feed is not a mirror of reality. It's a mirror of who has time to post. That's it. And when we start to mistake that very curated, super amplified sample for what's actually real, well, that's when our own perspective starts to get seriously warped.
And here's the kind of scary part. It only takes one skewed feed to completely change how you see the world. Think about it. When you're constantly exposed to that same unrepresentative group, their opinions start to seem way more common than they actually are. We start to mistake their outrage for the world's outrage. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. Here's the good news. Once you actually understand this whole dynamic, you can start to take back control. This isn't about blaming the internet. It's about giving yourself the tools to navigate it a whole lot more wisely. So, how do you actually fix your feed? Well, here are 4 simple steps. First up, just remember this theory, seriously. Next time you see some extreme take, just pause for a second and ask yourself, who is posting this and do they really represent everyone? Second, actively seek out the quiet voices. Look for that thoughtful content from people who are probably too busy to post all day. Third, and this one is huge, prioritize your real-world interactions. They are a much, much better gauge of reality. And finally, maybe the best antidote of all, log off, touch grass. I guarantee you'll find the world is a lot calmer than your timeline makes it out to be.
So, to wrap it all up, what are the key takeaways? Well, number 1, your feed is not reality. It's shaped by whoever has the most time on their hands, which creates a pretty powerful cognitive bias. But, and this is the most important part, you can absolutely control the effect it has on you.
And that kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on, doesn't it? If the internet isn't the real world, what are we all missing? By constantly staring into this skewed reflection, What parts of actual reality, the quiet, the nuanced, the offline stuff, are we just completely failing to see? What's really out there when we finally decide to look up from our screens?